All right, thank you. So today we're going to talk about how the CCs in the urban stormwater will impact on the biological system, and how the different stormwater treatment system work or don't work to remove the CCs. The stormwater and the sewage water system is quite different, and sewage water goes to the water treatment plant and treated and released to the environment, relatively cleaner than the stormwater. The lot of stormwater is the coming from the road or the front yard, and having the lot of the unknown contaminant, and that released to the environment. So how we can reduce this contaminant is important. So we know the urban stormwater contaminated with the lot of unknown CCs and inducing the adverse biological effect. And but we don't know how the current best management practice can remove the CCs from stormwater, and also how the seasonal change effect on this contaminant, and also the source of contamination is still not clear. So we compare two different systems of the stormwater treatment. So stormwater treatment pond or the stormwater retention pond is receive the inflow of the stormwater, urban stormwater, and then the hold depend on the size of the pond, certain time, and depend on the vegetation and the UV from sunlight, that we expect to something better thing happen, and outflow will be better. That is we expect. But also the ion enhanced sand filter system also used in some place, and the bank of the stormwater pond had the additional iron, and then the only water pass through the sand filter will goes out to the environment. So we compare this outflow and ion enhanced sand filtered water, and also the inflow we compare. And to compare those systems, we collect the sample from the Minnesota and around the St. Paul area. And two sites showing in blue is the standard pond, and 5 sites showing the red is the ion enhanced sand filter. And also we collect the sample from different seasons, and you can see that this is the snow melt season, and also summer season. So the vegetation around the retention pond is quite different. So these also might affect on the removal of the contamination from the stormwater system. And to look at the biological effect, we use the fathead minnow hatchling and exposed to 21 days. And then we look at the effect on the larval survival and feeding efficiency, and also the predator avoidance performance. So this is show the survival after 21 days exposure and effect of the season and treatment. And the season effect on the survival, and the summer was low and others little higher. And our interest is here, on the right side. The inflow is the non-treated water, and treated is the ion enhanced sand filter is lower than the outflow without the enhanced ion enhanced sand filter. So ion enhanced sand filter is giving some bad contamination or the bad effect on the survival of the fathead minnow, the larva. And I forget to mention, but reference is we use the well water in Central States University. So I enhance sand filter, giving something to some effect on the fish survival. So the one of the hypothesis we got is maybe those animal not eating well and not surviving. So we look at the feeding efficiency or foraging the efficiency. We put the 15 brine shrimp into this mulch well plate, and then put the larva fathead minnow in and leave the 1 minute, and we look at how many brine shrimp was eaten, and that we will show that this result as the feeding efficiency. And look at the effect of season and treatment, and different season shows slightly different pattern of the feeding efficiency, but it was not highly correlate with the survival. And treatment, you can see the ion enhanced sand filter and inflow and outflow. Those three are not significant different. So the different treatment on the stormwater retention pond not affect on the feeding efficiency. And another hypothesis we got that maybe the behavior has changed and not great survival. So we look at the predator avoidance performance. Put the larva fathead minnow on the stage. You can see on the right side. And then we give the stimulus, it's the vibration signal. And then we measure how quick this larva respond and how far they swim away. So here's the result and predator avoidance performance and the effect of the season and treatment. The season change effect on the avoidance predator avoidance performance. And the treatment, you can see the inflow is very low and the ion enhanced sand filter and outflow is higher. So based on the predator avoidance performance, the treatment work and remove some adverse or some toxic compound for the predator avoidance performance. So treatment works for this type of behavior. So I'd like to show the chemical data, but we're still waiting for the chemical analysis and data because of the COVID. the analysis is very delayed, so still waiting. But this one is showing the previous paper, and ion enhanced sun filter is showing the some effectiveness to decrease the CECs in similar research project. And so we also look at the estrogenicity of this stormwater system. And we use the in vitro, the receptor, estrogen receptor reporter gene assay system. And we use the fathead minnow estrogen receptor. So this shows the estrogenicity of each water sample and different seasons, and the black is inflow and red is outflow. And in 2019 summer, they're showing the regular pond and ion enhanced sun filter pond show the significant difference. And interesting thing is in most cases, the outflow has more estrogenicity than inflow. So something going on in the stormwater treatment pond. So we're gonna look at the environmental DNA to find out the source of the contamination. And this one is showing just the DNA amount. So it's not much interesting. So we're gonna go show this one. So we try to detect the species-specific fecal bacteria eDNA in the stormwater pond to identify the source of the contamination. So we use the specific for human, dog, and duck. And you can see that we find a couple human-specific contamination in different sites and different seasons. This might be the potential contamination with the switch system, or some leakage or the overflow. We don't know, but some potential contaminations here.
About 3 minutes remaining.
And you can see some site we detect the dog, and those might be indicating the activity of the pet. And duck we identified only in September. So that might be related to the seasonal migration event, but we don't know. So, but the environmental DNA might help and will be the key to identify the source of the contamination. So we see the biological effect, the difference between the inflow and outflow, and also ion enhanced sun filter. Some part positively affect, but some, especially the survivor, will be negatively impacted by ion enhanced sun filter. And I'd like to thank for the support by the LCCMR Environmental Trust Fund in Minnesota, and also the Water Resource Center in Minnesota. Thank you for your attention. Now I can answer question or comment.
Yes, we have time for one question.
No questions yet. There was one question. It said, I thought in the US we had combined sewer system.
Yeah, some city, yes, but some now mostly they try to separate to avoid the overflow by storm event.
Okay. And then do I have time for another one or
yeah.
no? Is there a summary of the contaminants iron did remove?
We still haven't got that chemical analysis data yet. So it's coming soon, I hope.